Hey y'all, happy Sunday and welcome to this week's live Q&A session. This is the portion of the show where we allow YouTube to send out notifications that we're going live. If you're watching this live Q&A on replay, please scrub ahead until this graphic disappears and the actual show begins. If you're watching live and you have any comments or questions, please go ahead and put them in the live chat. But for now, grab a beverage, sit back, and relax while the countdown timer does its thing. Then we'll get started. Aloha, hey y'all, happy Sunday. How goes it, everybody? Hope y'all are doing well. Hope things are going your way. And I hope the weather is conducive to good moods. We've gone through a cool down here, but that's fine. 68 arguably is better than 115. I'll take it, but could be better. But everything could. Today is going to be a little El Diferente, in that for the first time in quite a while, I have absolutely nothing for a topic, so I'm going to rely on y'all. And y'all have already given me a couple of good questions out here without even realizing it. And it gets into something that a lot of people don't even consider, and that is design concept and how you come up with a design, what you want out of a design, and it's kind of morphing into another direction that I hadn't even considered, and focusing on basically the kitchen. So we're gonna talk about it. I mean, this has never been about me. It's always been about y'all. So we're gonna work with it. The first question, not really a question, just kind of thinking out loud, but as I alluded to in the chat before we went live here, sometimes these random thoughts are the most interesting, but they can also be on occasion the most dangerous. And you can take that word dangerous in any direction you want to go to. And that comes from 8th Center. And he's asking, wondering if you could use a diamond drag to make a garlic and ginger grater on a steel plate or something. Ceramic tile, maybe. And that gets into a discussion about the right tool for the job. In that, a diamond drag bit and what its intended purpose is and how it works and what it's going to accomplish. A diamond drag bit is basically used for engraving. It's meant to scratch a surface. And because a diamond drag bit has a spring in it so that they are designed to follow uneven surfaces. And what I mean by that is engraving glass, engraving metals, or even ceramic tile. There are always going to be minute little variations in the surface. As flat as glass may look, there was always a little bit of waviness because of the way glass is made. It's a liquid that solidifies as it cools, and there's always going to be a variation. There are ways of making it smooth in the manufacturing process, but it's generally agreed there is going to be some variation in the surface. And the spring in that diamond drag bit is meant to accommodate those variations and compensate for them so that you get a smooth engraving. Now, in the case of metals, they can be machined to where they are smoother, but you're never going to have 100%. There was always going to be some minute, and this is measured in microns, but there's always going to be a little bit of a variation there. So my main concern with something like a diamond drag bit would be the ability for it to engrave deep enough for you to get any kind of a grating effect on either ginger or garlic. Simply because I think what you're going to end up with would be a juicy pulp. It also will not take long for those engraved lines or slots or whatever you're making. It wouldn't take long for them to clog up. And I think you'd end up with a mess. I really do. I think you'd end up with a major mess. Now, having said that, If you were to use, say, a V-bit, a carbide, solid carbide, or, well, yeah, probably a solid carbide V-bit with a very small diameter, you might get better results, depending upon how you designed it. And it wouldn't have to be much. Think of it as chip carving on a very small scale, and they'd have to be densely packed or what have you. You'd also need a way to clean it out as you're using it, you know. It's an interesting mental exercise, but I think the diamond drag would be the wrong way to go because I don't think it would be able to engrave deep enough to give you a result that you would consider to be usable, you know. But again, like I said, those kind of thoughts are often the most interesting, and it could lead to some other direction. I know you probably didn't think of this as a topic for discussion, but I think it's valid because it bounces ideas around. Pulp is usable. I'm not doubting that. I'm not doubting that at all. What I'm getting at is, practically speaking, would it work? I'm not saying to discard it. Try it and let me know. Try it. I mean, if you have a scrap of steel or aluminum or something like that, something to be thought of about steel is steel is going to corrode. So aluminum might be the better bet. I don't know how acidic garlic or ginger are. I don't know if they would promote corrosion in steel or something like that. You could try stainless. I mean, that would be a good exercise as well. Give it a shot. The worst that can happen is no. Stainless is plentiful. There you go. Then that's the way. Yeah, give it a shot. And please let me know how it works out for you because I'm interested in this. This is the kind of thought-provoking exercises that will either confirm or deny something. I could be completely off base, and that might be exactly what you're looking for, something to make you that pulp. In which case, hey, success. But failure is always an option, and a result is a result, whether it's the result you wanted or not. Give it a shot. And then please let me know, because I'd be interested in hearing Kurt from Crafty Jan says, not sure I would make my own grater, just the thought of metal shards. Well, obviously cleaning and preparation of it, you know, you wouldn't just diamond drag and then pull it right off the machine and put it to work in something you planned on eating. But, you know, you'd obviously have the, go through the motions of polishing and making sure, because it's not so much, it would be the sharpness of the groove, but it would also be just the variation in texture that would have that grating effect. And it's an interesting thought exercise. It would either work or it wouldn't, or it might need refining. Just, you know, but obviously I'm weird in that I take food safety very, very seriously. Even when cooking for, you know, just my wife and I. I mean, I think Linda kind of does a little inner smile every time she sees me pull on glove liners and then nitro gloves when I'm getting food ready to go out on the grill or just even in the oven at home. But I take it very, very seriously, and I try to be as clean as, I've got the cleanest hands in 7 states. I mean, that's all there is to it. And I think it does warrant it. So anyway, but yeah, interesting concept and something to, oh wow, I like this. Fail equals first attempt at learning. So long as you do learn. I agree with you. I like that. And in fact, I might steal that. Who knows? That may end up on the wall behind me. I like that a lot. The thing is, you have to make sure you learn. So you got to be willing to investigate. I've heard it said that, well, if you're not breaking bits, you're not learning anything. And I think that's bogus. I don't agree with that at all, because I can break bits all day and not learn a thing, you know. And also, by that same logic, you don't know how to drive until you've totaled at least 2 cars, which is, I think we'd all agree, is foolish. So, I don't want to start an argument here, but I disagree with that statement. You just have to be careful, and you have to pay attention. You have to focus on what you're doing. I have tried steel brushes. I have tried nylon bristle brushes. I've tried plastic brushes, and I go back to steel every single time, simply because the quote unquote safer versions just don't do a good enough job for me. Again, I take food safety very, very seriously. You have to pay attention. And I've not had a failure yet, knock on wood. So, let's see here. I am not even going to address that, simply because I don't understand most of it. But hey, knowing your limitations is part of the thing. You know, that's part of it. Okay, let's get into something else, which it kind of goes into this, but it's also, you know, let's just get into it, Mark. From Kimberly Went, one of my favorite people. Noticing too many knives in my butcher block and having to double up. Anybody made one or have any fun ideas for a custom build on a CNC? I'm going to be pedantic, and I'm going to be that guy, okay? And I'm sorry, that's what happens when you're an English major. And that is, I got to get into word definitions, because when I hear butcher block, a few things pop into mind. But in this context, the one that comes to mind is this type of butcher block, a freestanding block used for butchering, you know, for cutting up meats or vegetables or processing game or what have you. This type of thing. This is more just a table. That's just a table to me as well. And that's a table too. This borderlines, so does this. A butcher block is a specific thing that has a specific definition. And again, that's just me being pedantic. A knife block, on the other hand, is something like this. A knife block, now we get into a bunch of various different realms here. And this gets into kind of the miniature topic that I wanted to talk about today, or that kind of just came. And that is project design and design cues and design influence. And Kimberly has already taken the first steps in that she has identified the need. A knife block, as she says now, my mistake, knife block. That's okay. I mean, you know, we all have our own relative terms. I'm never going to tell somebody they're wrong by saying pop or soda or, Coke, for that matter. You call it what you call it, and that's perfectly fine. You know what you mean. That's cool. Knife blocks can take on various different, obviously you can see various different shapes, sizes. A lot of people like this type. A lot of people don't. There are pros and cons to every design. But you have to kind of figure out what you want. And then we can get into what you want it to look like. These are obviously the most common. These are, set on a slant. Personally, if it were me going to make something like that, I would make the square block first and then eventually cut that 45-degree angle at the base, and then make some sort of a platform for it, as so, to hold it in that position, something to stabilize it. There are various designs. Something to think about is the use of magnets. There are that type of board which is magnetized from the back. And it's also less specific in that you can put any knife right there. You could take a small paring knife or a boning knife and put it there. Another thing to consider is the use of these knives. Again, I'm not a chef. I'm not a professional. I'm not a cook. But I learned how to cook at an early age, a relatively young age, because simply put, I like to eat. So getting into the use of these knives, how often do you use them? For something like this, there are knives I wouldn't put in there. I wouldn't put cleavers in there because they're too big. I wouldn't put my slicing knife in there. My slicing knife is got a 10-inch blade on it, and it's about 1.5 inches tall. And so it's just too big. It would be unwieldy. Something that would be better for my slicer would be a wall-mounted unit. Let's look at wall-mounted knife blocks. Something like this, or something like this, which was magnetic. My problem is I don't have any wall in my kitchen that's big enough for something like that. So as it sits right now, my slicer is in it sits up in a Corning dish, a big baking sheet dish, where it's out of the way and doesn't get beat up and bounced around. My boning knife is there as well. We do have one of this type of knife blocks that are steak knives and one butcher knife, things like that. It serves its purpose. I mean, there are a few knives that we put in it, but knives that I don't use a lot are put away in a cabinet. My fillet knife, my boning knife, my slicer, things of that nature. Now, 8 Center brings up a good point, and this is personal preference. This is personal preference. He says, let's see here. Concept principles. Are knife blocks safe? To me, nope. And then when asked about it, why do you consider them unsafe? He goes on and says dirt and dust gets in them and can develop mold and bacteria. And that's legitimate. That is true. You don't know how dirty things can get until you just get a can of air, take your knife block, open it up, especially if it's more than, say, a year or two old, and blow it out with that can of air with a straw stuck to it. And you might be surprised unpleasantly at how much stuff comes out of there. Because we live in a world where there is dust and dirt and bacteria. It's just the case. Pete from Nature's Live Edge agrees with that. I don't care for blocks that enclose the blade with a concern for bacteria. I prefer a magnetic design. And those are all legitimate. There is always something else to consider, and that is something that I don't hear a lot of people other than chefs talk about, and that is a knife roll. And we'll do an image search for a knife roll, and it's simply something like that. And that's used more for, it's used by chefs in that they can put all their knives in one place and take them home with them at the end of the day. That way the night crew is not there using their boning knife as a hammer, you know. Chefs spend a lot of money on their knives, and they want to keep them safe. They want to keep them protected. And a knife roll on something like cleavers, slicers, expensive knives that you want to keep safe. And they don't have to be something super deluxe like this. If you have access to canvas and a sewing machine that'll sew canvas, a knife roll can be made for little to no money at all. It's just a way to keep and protect your knives that you don't use very often. My slicer gets used irregularly. I mean, when I need it, and that's all there is to it. When I don't need it, it stays put away, you know. And that way it's not rattling around in a drawer, having tongs dropped on it or something like that. It's put away, and it's safe. I know where it is. I can grab it when I need it, wash it, put it back, and that's the way it is. So basically what it comes down to is it comes down to what you need, the way you're going to use it. And this is the hardest part for a lot of people, is to think about how you're really going to use it. Are you really going to need that cleaver every day? You might. That might be your favorite knife, and you use it everything from doing its job in cutting meats, or maybe you use it for dicing carrots or cutting scallions or spring onions or whatever. If you do use it, then you need it somewhere you can get to it real fast right now without having to go through a lot of palaver to dig it out and use it. But if it's something that's going to be used on occasion, like my slicer, do you really want it in a knife block? Something else to think about, Kimberly, is there's no law that says you can only have one. Now, 8th Center brings up a good design that I saw years ago and was thinking about, but I haven't put into play yet. And I saw this years ago, and it was a simple box cut at the bottom cut at a 45-degree angle. And instead of having slots carved into it, it used the bamboo skewers that were not glued in or anything like that, but they were just loose. And you can get bamboo skewers. I mean, you can go down to Wally World and get them. I think it's like 60 cents for a pack of 100. It might take a few packs. But, you know, even if it took 100 packs, it's not as expensive as the wood to make a knife block. And they were just loosely put into this box. And whatever knife, you just slip it in there. The advantage of this is it won't take much to pull the knives out, kind of dump it on its side, pull those skewers out, and clean everything. And if you need to, throw those skewers away and get more. So it's an option, and it's not custom fit. It's adaptable. You know, you could put 4 steak knives in there, a paring knife, a boning knife, and a fillet knife. And then when you need your butcher's knife, throw that butcher's knife in there as well. You could put a cleaver on one side and a bigger cleaver over on the other side. It's adaptable. It's not dedicated. You have options, and I'm all about options. So, but identify the need. Think about how you're really going to use it. Then start things like identifying the material. Do I want it made out of maple? Do I want it made out of walnut? Do I want it made out of something else? And then start looking at the aesthetics. You know, and remember that nothing has to be written in stone. It's okay to have a sense of humor. I thought this one was hilarious. You know, it looks like this time a Spartan warrior with his shield up and the knives coming through it, and he's holding another knife. I've seen another version where it's he's holding, there it is, he's holding the sharpening steel. You know, you can have a sense of humor about this kind of thing. If you truly insist on having the type of knife block that is not magnetic, something else to consider would be something like this, that uses acrylic instead of a solid wood. And in that way, any of the grunge and gook that would fall through and get down here is gone. And if you put this the acrylic on 2 sides, you're only enclosing it on 2 sides. So as this kind of illustrates, the air would get in there, and you wouldn't be dealing with the potential buildup of mold and bacteria. You know, something like this as well, where you have the wood on one side and acrylic on the other, and you drop the knife blades down in between the wood and the acrylic. There are all kinds of design considerations for something like this, and most of it is going to be the aesthetic you prefer. But again, there's no law that says you can only have one. So, I mean, you know, and we're getting into other things like touching up the edges and, keeping them sharp, and everybody has their own sharpening system. But I guess if I'm going to preach anything about this, is the hardest part of all of this is to take an honest assessment, and that's again the hardest part for some. Make an honest assessment of exactly how you're going to use them, and go from there. Let that be your guide. Long before you even get into aesthetics, think about how you're actually going to use it. So, let's see here. We had another question from Jeff Gilroy Kilroy. If you wanted to cut corrugated cardboard on your CNC custom boxes, what bit would you use? Drag knife? I might also not want to cut all the way through, but score it. Partial cut for bending. You're on the right track, Jeff. A drag knife. And in fact, I seriously considered getting a drag knife when I first got the Avid CNC. But then I thought about how often, and again, this dovetails in with design consideration. Seriously, how often would I use it? I don't make products to sell. I don't ship anything, not often enough that would require me to make custom boxes. In my world, a custom box is taking a pair of scissors and cutting down a box that exists, cutting slots, and then fold that in. I make custom boxes as I need them. So I really don't have a need for a drag knife. But you are on the right track. A drag knife is the way to go. The hard part about using a drag knife, and it's not that difficult, but, excuse me, the hardest part about using a drag knife is remembering to set your spindle speed at 0. And that might mean getting into the G code and modifying that so your spindle doesn't even turn on. You do not want that spindle to turn off. Because trust me when I say the last thing you want is a utility knife blade spinning in your spindle at 12,000 RPM plus. So, yes, a diamond drag knife would be, not a diamond, excuse me. A drag knife would be the way to go. And just like any other tool, you get what you pay for. I've heard good things about some of the cheapy drag knives that you get off of eBay. I've heard some really bad things about them. Donek, hashtag not sponsored. Donek is probably the biggest name in drag knives, but they're not the end all and be all. It's kind of like how the Rolls-Royce used to be the flagship of cars, but not every car has to be a Rolls-Royce, So, 8 Center says the Stepcraft drag knife is well priced. It uses the EU type blades that are a bit harder to find, though. Yeah, Stepcraft is a German company, so they're semi-proprietary, Stepcraft is, but I know a couple people here in the States that have Stepcraft machines, and they absolutely love them. So, let's see here. Jeff says, by the way, for the Avid EX controller, you need to set the spindle speed at 1. 0 is not allowed. I find the easiest way to handle that, Jeff, is not even turn on the spindle control box. Then I have no issues at all. That worked with Mach 4. I have to say that my experience with the EX controller, and I do have the EX controller, my experience is limited. I got to use it one time before this whole medical adventure I've been on for the last year and almost a month now, for the last, coming up on 13 months. So I have very limited experience with it. But when using Mach 4, I didn't even turn on the spindle control box, so it can say whatever. It says, I believe the EX controller requires the spindle to be powered. Okay. That's something I have to get into. On that front, because I do get asked about it quite often. Again, this is almost 13 months. In fact, in 7 days, it'll be 13 months. I am at the tail end of tapering off the medications. Okay? And in fact, tonight is my last medication. I tapered down from 1,800 milligrams a day. I'm now down to 300, which is the lowest dosage possible. And I take my last capsule tonight before bed. Now I have the cleansing period, let's call it. All right. So I will no longer be on those medications. However, there are withdrawal symptoms that I'm dealing with now and have been for a few days now. And they're pretty stark, more so than I thought would be. So I'm not ready to get back to work yet. I was told to estimate 3 weeks. We'll see what happens, because some of them, some of the medications that I were on, they say withdrawal symptoms can go all the way up to a couple of months. We'll see what happens. But the light at the end of the tunnel is not a train. And when I get back to it, I have a list of projects to do that is longer than I am tall, which ain't saying much. I'm only 5'7", so what the heck. Heavy duty stuff. I'll get into that another time. I'll get into that another time, maybe. Let's see here. We had another question here from Kimberly. This is the kind of stuff I like. Ideas for Sandpaper organization. Selfishly asking as I set up my shop. That's another thing. That's another thing that's subjective. Do you want something mounted on the wall? Do you want something rigid that is inflexible? Personally, you can see mine right here. Bonk, right there. It's an art box. And you can see how I use it. It's got its dividers. I keep my sandpaper in it. I can pick this up and take it outside and use it out there if I'm outside. I can pop it up on the CNC, which sometimes turns into the world's most expensive assembly table, and use it up there. I'm not restricted. I've got options. I can take it and 2 of my random orbit sanders over to my niece and nephew's house and use it over there if they're refinishing something and I need to help. I'm not limited. It's an art box. What I'll do is I will get a link to this box. I got it off Amazon. I'll get a link to this box and I will put it in the, I'll put it in a pinned comment down in the description, down in the comment section, excuse me, of this live stream as soon as we're done. I do it now, but I can't do it while we're live. Comments are not open to me. So just wrote myself a note. It will be an affiliate link. And what that does is that gives me a small commission if you buy through that link. It does not cost you anything. It's just another way of supporting the channel if you'd like to. If you don't want to, that's fine. But I will link the one that I use down in a pinned comment as soon as we're finished here. And again, it's just my way of doing things. It's nothing specific. I don't tend to use a lot of different grits of sandpaper. If I'm using the sheet, and I do use the sheets, not just the little discs, I have one of those, and I'll put a link to it on the in that same pinned comment. I can't show it to you because it's mounted on my door. It's one of those, it's a wire rack that is meant to go like on the wall of a doctor's office or what have you, that you can drop manila folders into. And the packages of sandpaper sheets, like that size package of sandpaper sheets. Got to get up, take one step closer to the microphone. A package of this size of sandpaper sheets fits into them just perfectly. And they stay, right there. I can just grab a pack, take out a sheet, put it back in, and drive on. I don't think it cost $10, but I don't use that many different grits of sandpaper. Mainly, say like 150, 100, 150, 220, and 320. I do have other grits that I use for specific things, like guitar fretboards. I'll go up to 4,000 grit, but that stays in the house. So you can use file holder like in doctor's office or just an office organizer. Yeah, and that's pretty much what they are. And I do that. I wanted something on the wall. And rather than reinventing the wheel, I bought an inexpensive wire rack. And again, I'll find a link to it and put it in a pinned comment as soon as we're done here. And that works for me. I also find, because I don't use a whole heck of a lot of grits, I had extra space. I also find that tool manuals and things of that nature will fit in a manila envelope down in the bottom of one, or down in the bottom of the thing. And I keep the sandpaper up towards the top. So, I've got my table saw manual and all that other good stuff in there. So it works for me. What can I say? I like options. There's a couple of exceptions to that. You'll notice right there, I have a box of gloves, a glove dispenser right there, because that's where my clamps are, and that's where I do most of my gluing. But I also have one, you can't see it, but it's right there on the wall, same wall my monitor's on. Yeah, there it is. Because sometimes I work up here. So rather than, like again, no law says you can't have more than one. So I just like to have options. So let's see here. Butch says, I have a specific drawer I built into my tool cabinet strictly for sandpaper. Yeah, a lot of people do. And if you work generally in the same area, it makes perfect sense. I just go all over the place. So, I may be out in the driveway. I mean, that's my paint shop, is outside in the driveway. Simply because I don't want to sit in here in the stink, unless I have to. If it's raining, you got to be in here. So, let's see here. Scottish Sawdust says, has anyone tried sanding mesh instead of paper? I haven't. Let me rephrase that. Here we go. Well, let's grab that one here. There. I am one of those people that grabbed onto the 3M Cubitron things. So this sandpaper is dynamite, and it is a mesh, as you can see through it here. It is a mess. A mess? Yeah, okay. Paging Dr. Freud. But yeah, it's a mesh, and it's dynamite. I like it a lot. But with a caveat, I like it when you're using dust collection. I have a shop vac over here with the 2.5-inch hose, and I have reducers and all that other good stuff for my random orbit sanders. And I have 3 random orbit sanders. That way I can keep 3 grits on them, step to the next grit as I need them. The Cubitron Extract, 3M Extract Cubitron, works very well with dust collection. I was surprised at how well it worked. So I jumped on that. However, for a sanding block, I still use the plain old 5-inch, 5.5-inch, 5-inch, whatever it is, sanding pads, because they're cheap. And I have a bunch left over from before I made the switch over to the 3M Extract. So I've got 2 of these little sanding blocks. I think they're called a sanding mouse. I'm not sure. I got 2 of these, and I keep down there. One of them this one has 150 on it, and the other one has 220 on it. And I swap it out as needed. And that's simply, I did it basically to use up the sandpaper I already had, because sandpaper is expensive. Why throw it out? And it works. And these little things they're Velcro, so it sticks to the pad. And it works well. And I'll put links to these as well as the sandpaper too. Sanding butcher block. If you mean end grain. You probably already know this, Kimberly, but the main thing I have sanded end grain on has been cutting boards, and the Cubitron works very well. I surface with the CNC router and my big Amana surfacing bit, get nice and smooth, and I'm not kidding. That Amana bit does so well. And it's got the replaceable carbide cutters on it that you can rotate. And I have rotated them once. It cuts so smooth. You will get, you'll see trails. I surface along my Y axis. Okay. And you will see trails, much like you see in a lawn when you cut one direction, turn around at that end and cut back this direction, turn around and cut back in that direction. You will see that on whatever you're doing. But I put some of that 3M Extract on my Milwaukee Random Orbit Sander and turn on dust collection with 220 grit paper. Maybe 5-10 minutes of sanding at the absolute most, and it is gloriously smooth. I mean, really, really nice. I will take a end grain cutting board down to 320, and gentle with the 320, because you can burnish the wood with 320 grit. And when you burnish your wood, you start closing off those cells. But that Amana surfacing bit leaves such a nice, smooth finish. That's just a few minutes with 220 and you're golden. Getting down into the juice groove, on the other hand, that's something else. But that's when I take a dowel, wrap some sandpaper around it, and get in there and hand sand it. I've yet to have anything come off the machine finish ready. It almost always needs some hand sanding. And I'm so cheap, this isn't even a dowel. That's the handle off a disposable foam paintbrush. And I just snap off the brush when I'm done with it, throw the brush part away after it dries, and then keep the dowels. And one of the things I use them for is I take a drill bit, I'll drill a hole in it the right size, and glue it into the glue it into the hole. And that makes a great little reamer for getting in there should you need it, and cleaning up a hole for whatever reason. Touch up a countersink or what have you. All kinds of little uses for things like that. Let's see here. Barry Lane says, I use old kitchen Scotch-Brite and foam pads with sandpaper. The Scotch-Brite holds the sandpaper nicely and worked great on sanding edges. Yes, there's a little bit of grip involved there. I do use Scotch-Brite pads. And in fact, if you're going to be applying a wax, and some finishes too, if you're going to be applying a wax, like a Butcher Block wax, for example, I like to use the white Scotch-Brites. It's also good for like Odie's oil finish. I One of my favorite finishes for guitar necks is True Oil rifle stock finish, and I apply 5 coats. And the first coat I apply, I kind of flood it, but I apply with old scrap of T-shirt. Wear nitrile gloves, believe me, because this stuff is stickier than heck. You think if you if you think getting shellac on your hands is a mess, try True Oil. Anyway, I'll take T-shirt material and kind of put it on, let it absorb for a few minutes, then buff off the excess after about an hour. And after starting on my 3rd coat, I will take a piece of white Scotch-Brite and I'll apply with that. And what that does is that smooths out previous layers. And you'll end up with such a smooth, delicious feeling finish on that. Oh, it's beautiful. Anyway, that's enough of that. So it looks to me like I got a big old long list of stuff I need to find a link for and put it down in a pinned comment as soon as we're finished here. Another little tip to kind of dovetail along with Barry Lane about kitchen Scotch-Brite foam pads, things of that nature is, this is especially true if you're going to be doing a lot of hand sanding, where you've got sandpaper and you're getting down into juice grooves or something like that. You've got a heavy profile, like in a molding or something that you're sanding. And that is, get you a roll of first aid tape. We're talking the silk first aid tape. And wrap the tips of your fingers. Just one wrap around the tips of all your fingers. And what that does is that puts another layer between your fingertips and the sandpaper. Not only does it grip a little bit better, not only does it grip the sandpaper, but if you've ever sanded so much that you've actually given yourself blisters, that'll prevent that. But it grips, it's more comfortable, and you'll find that you'll be able to sand for a lot longer just with a couple of wraps, and it doesn't have to be every finger. You'll figure it out, believe me. But just a wrap, maybe 2, and try that out. It works really well. It's a little bit of padding between you and the sandpaper. So, Kimberly, thank you very much. Totally, totally unnecessary, but thank you very, very much. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I have the absolute best, most generous viewers on YouTube, and it's things like that that prove it. I truly appreciate it, Kimberly, more than you know. Okay, we've been going for right at an hour, and I didn't think I was going to make it today without having a topic. So we bounced all over the place. A lot of subjective content today. A lot of things to consider in your design process and your design ideas. Probably, if you're going to take anything away from today, that is to take an honest assessment of how the project is going to be used before you take the first step. Kimberly, you're never hijacking my time. This is what this is all about. Again, this has never been about me. This has always been about y'all. If this was supposed to be about me, I'd be doing reaction videos and trying to work on 1 million subscribers. And personally, I just don't care about gaining subscribers. I don't care about any of that stuff. I'm out here to try like crazy to help folks. Either not make the mistakes I've made, or just, if anything, to let you know that you can do this, that it's not rocket science. So, but thank you. And it's never a hijack. I beg for it. I'm constantly begging for people. Give me ideas, please. On that note, channel members, tomorrow, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, more of the same. In that, I have no idea what we're going to do. And so that's up to you. What are we going to talk about? What are we going to do? Shoot me an email. You have my email address. Shoot me an email and let me know what you want to see. If you're in the WhatsApp group, message the WhatsApp group. I want to know. Again, it's not about me. It's about what you want to see. Same here on the public side. Let me know what you want to see. Let me know what you're tired of seeing. If I'm covering something too much, let me know. I can't do it if I don't know. That's basically what I'm saying. So, it is all about the engaging with like-minded folks. Absolutely. 100%. It's going to be an adventure for the next, let's say, month, maybe 2. We'll see how it goes. I'm not going to say I'm back, but I'm not going to say I'm gone. I'm not gone. I'm going to be here as long as YouTube allows me to post and hold these live streams. This has helped me keep my sanity over the last 14 months, and I thank you all for it. It's meant more than you'll ever know. Anyway, so I think that's it. Channel members, again, tomorrow, I'm not sure what we're going to do. We'll figure it out sometime between now and then. You always come through for me. Also, don't forget, channel members, Thursday is our 3D printing hangout, where we discussed free design software, where we discussed slicers and projects and things of that nature. There will be a lot coming up on the 3D printing side. I'm not going to talk about that right now. Again, that's members only on that side. Also, I missed last night's Zoom call. Thank you, Kurt, for filling in. I appreciate it. But generally, we have just a BS Zoom call for members only on Saturday evenings, 5-ish Pacific, 8-ish Eastern, give or take, depending upon when dinner's finished or dinner's ready. And just give it a good go. We talk about life, the universe, and everything from camper van conversions to barbecue to CNC, 3D printing, laser, that kind of thing. Just all kinds of stuff. If you don't know what I'm talking about, or you'd like to be part of our merry little band, we have room for you, and we'd love to have you tag along. Down below this video panel, you'll see the word join. Click that word join. You're not joining anything. You're just getting information. That's all. There's no obligation. Another video will pop up and play and let you know all about channel membership. Again, we've got a great group of people, not an ego amongst them, and 100% dedicated to helping one another succeed, helping one another learn. And it's more personal and more personalized. We got a great group of folks. That's all I can say. And there's plenty of room. We'd love to have you join us. So let's go ahead and wrap this up. I have no idea what's going to happen next week. We'll all face that adventure together. I will try to have a topic next week. Yeah, that's it. Gone through the Rolodex in my brain. So I will say thank you again. I'll get these links put in the in a pinned comment as soon as we're done here. Thank you for spending part of your Sunday with us, and you all have a great end to your weekend. Bye, y'all. Thank you.